Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess and Ray, and thank you for sticking around for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Andrew Fillipponi in a matter of moments over at the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and we're going to be talking about those Steelers and terrible towels and all the Steelers fans. They got a big game, their first game, their season opener this Sunday in Atlanta, and they get a big deal done with Cam Hayward. 3 years, $45 million. He'll get the $16 million guaranteed, $15 million signing bonus. Pony, do you like the deal?
I do, but when you phrase it that way, is it really a new deal? Because the only money that's guaranteed is the money for this year. And so, yes, there's 2 years on there, and it's $14.5 million per year. It's $29 million. But if you look at the way this deal was written up, if Cam Hayward were to have a terrible year, Richie, if he were to look like a guy that is 36 years old, 35 years old, actually. I don't want to do that to Cam. He gets mad about that. If he has a bad year and doesn't live up to the $16 million, they could cut him loose, and there would be no cap penalty. And so I'm not predicting that will happen, but this is one of those deals where it's really a handshake deal between the Steelers and the player. As long as Cam does not have a wretched year or injury-plagued year, he'll be back next year. But if he does, well, then there's a way out of the contract. So ultimately, I think it's a very good deal for both sides. It's not a deal that sets the Steelers back financially. I thought that Cam Hayward wanted more money, and that's why this deal was a hard one to do. In all actuality, as it turned out, I'm surprised the deal took as long as it did to happen, because it is a very team-friendly deal, and it's not one that sets them back in case Cam has a down year or an injury-plagued year.
So, Pony, let me get this straight. He's $16 million this year. We knew that. It's a 3-year. They basically ripped up the contract and said 3 years, $45 million, right? $16 million was the year. But he also has a $15 million signing bonus, correct? So isn't that 31 years basically?
No. My understanding is that $16 million. Well, here's how it gets done. $15 million is in the signing bonus, so his salary for this year, Richie, is only like $1 million.
So a clear up space,
it's like veteran
too.
minimum,
yeah.
Just like Russell Wilson. So it's really $16 million total, which is what they were going to pay him this year. He just has it in writing now that there's 2 years left on the contract, but none of that money is guaranteed. Now, you could say, given Cam Hayward's standing with the organization, given his reputation, they won't cut him. He'll see that money, but it's not set in stone. It's not 100% guarantee. And so that's why they probably have a gentleman's agreement here, Art Rooney, Cam Hayward, that as long as he's not injured and as long as he can play, he will see that money. But it's not technically guaranteed like we see the Steelers, like we see other teams do with players, and like we see in baseball and hockey where the entire contract is guaranteed. Cabrian Hayes could hit no home runs, and the Pirates still owe him $50 million. Ryan Graves could be the worst defenseman in the NHL, and the Penguins still owe him another $20 million, Richie.
All right, so what's up next? We got a few days to get Pat Freiermuth under contract. Do you think that deal will get done? I mean, I thought it was expected weeks ago.
Yes.
I had information that it was going to get done in a couple weeks, and here we are about a month later, and there's still a stalemate.
I think it will get done. I think that we'll obviously see the tight end take on a bigger role in the offense, especially given the wide receiver lack of depth. And just that's how Arthur Smith has done things in Tennessee and Atlanta. He's a big believer in using the tight ends. He also likes to use a lot of two running backs. So we could see formations where Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris are on the field at the same time. Now it's a matter of Russell Wilson being able to get the ball to these guys, not hanging onto the ball forever, not trying to be Superman on every play, which is something that plagued him in Denver, where over the last 2 years, Richie, he has been sacked 100 times, which is mind-boggling, 50 sacks a season. But, yeah, I'm with you. I expect Pat Freiermuth to get a new deal before they kick off in Atlanta on Sunday.
You know, I'm a big fan of Freiermuth. I think he has a ton of upside and a ton of potential, and I think he could have made a major impact in this offense if he wasn't hurt or if Kenny Pickett could get him the ball. But here's where I am. How much do you pay for potential and upside. Do you have to overpay for him right now? What is he worth right now?
That's a great point. That's why I honestly think for Freiermuth, and you and I both think a deal will get done, but I think there's a strong argument on both sides to play out the contract, because if you're Pat, if you put up monster numbers in this offense, that's going to drive your price up. If you're the Steelers, you might be thinking, well, we've never really seen him do it for a full season before. And even though you're right, you could blame Kenny, you can blame Trubisky, you can blame Canada, you can blame injury. He still hasn't done it yet. So I actually think there's incentive on both sides to wait until this season is over. But I just heard, like you have, enough speculation that they're close to a deal and have been for a while, and it's a matter of when and not if with Pat Freiermuth.
All right, well, we got to head to break right now. We're going to talk about the Steelers and the battle in Buccos. Where do they go from here? Big win in Chicago here tonight. Paul Skeens on the mound. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to our GMC Tweet of the Night. This is from Joe Block. Pirates announcer Paul Skeens ties Cy Blanton from 1935 for most strikeouts by a Pirates rookie in a season. You know, I was looking at the numbers. I mean, he's impressive, Pony. There's no question about it. But for tonight, the Pirates are, what, 12-8 when he starts. I think they should be much better when he starts a game.
No question about it. They should be conservatively 15-5 in games that he starts. He's got the lowest ERA of any starting pitcher since he was called up in May. He's only given up more than three runs in one of his starts that came against the Dodgers last month. He is every bit as good as he was promised to be, and it's just a shame because the Pirates have fallen out of it, and it just feels like Paul Skeens is now out of sight, out of mind. But you'd think he's going to make it maybe 3 or 4 more starts, Richie, and it really is a sight to behold every time he's out there. The guy is an absolute monster, and we're lucky to have him. Now, the Pirates need to take advantage of that, and I'm nervous that they won't. I'm concerned about that. I just wonder when he watches the team around him struggle if he gets frustrated about his situation here. And that's what scares me, that at some point he's going to want to start, other than individual success, he's going to want the team success. And does that force a trade or a move earlier than we all want? So it's incumbent on the Pirates to build around Paul Skeens, Richie.
You know, that's why I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure he has say in this, but why is Yasmani Grandal even in the lineup at this point? I mean, you got to play Henry Davis and see what you have, right? I mean, even though he's batting, what, 140, just continue to trot him out there and see if he can start to hit major league pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Skeens, I haven't had a chance to talk to Skeens. Maybe Skeens wants him in there for comfort. Calling a game.
He's had Grandal in just about every one of his starts. So there's clearly a comfort factor there with Grandal. He likes the veteran catcher. Remember, he was a catcher in college. And so I think he has respect for that part of the job. I think he respects the pitch framing. I think he respects the game calling. And so he likes having the savvy veteran to go with him on this rookie campaign. Now, that's got to change next year, Richie. You can't keep Yasmani Grandal around because Paul Skeens, I mean, for as much as I value Paul Skeens' opinion and want to appreciate everything he's doing, Yasmani Grandal in his mid to late 30s should not factor into the future with this team. You've got Andy Rodriguez coming back. You've got Joey Bart, who's going to be your #1 catcher and a big bat in your lineup. Joey Bart's got to get used to catching Paul Skeens. So right now, Skeens going to have Grandal for the next few weeks. But you're right, next year, he's better get a handle on things with Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, and Joey Bart, because those should be the guys who are catching him next season.
All right, let's go out to Jim and Peters. How you doing, Jim, for our #1 Cochran? Go one better call tonight. What's up, Jim?
Couldn't be doing better, guys. Look, I was just say this. I remember this like Jim Gott said in 1985. He says, let's go, whatever. I want to see this as a springboard for next year. Now, I was to say this, as far as, I don't know if you remember the name of McCarver, Tim McCarver. What was he? He was a pitcher for Steve Carlton, catcher. He was at the end of his career. Now, all I say is that I want to see them finish strong so they'll have confidence going into next year.
Yeah, but look what happened last year. Jim, I appreciate the call. They finished strong last year, and look what they did this year. I mean, they're going to have a worse season. At this point, I don't care. I don't know about you, Pony. I don't care about wins and losses. I want to see guys like Nick York up here, see what he can do. Maybe Billy Cook, Peguero, Land. I just bring up all the young guys that might potentially help you next year.
Yeah, those are guys, especially because of their production in the minor leagues with Cook and York, I thought we would have up here by now. But apparently the Pirates had other ideas. That's why we're watching Billy McKinney and Alika Williams and guys like that who we've already seen them enough. We know that they're really not major league players or major league hitters. So I am confused by that. I am confounded by that as well. This September should be about getting a better understanding of the young players in your organization. And they've already started that by moving O'Neill Cruz to center field. But it should continue like Rowdy Tellez. Okay, I get it. Rowdy Tellez has had a stronger, I would say, second half of the season going back to June 1st after his 2 dreadful months. But Richie, how does he factor into the Pirates' future? I don't think he does. He's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
So I'd like to try out other guys at first base to see if they can do it, because you got to plug that hole next year.
Unless you contemplate bringing him back, I don't know. I mean, is he worth giving another contract to?
Okay, but even if you did, why do you need to see more of him in September? You know what he can do. Let's see what some of your younger guys got.
I mean, look, Tellez, Jared Triolo, even though he helped win the game today, I don't have to see any more of him either. So I want to see some of these young guys at this point. That's where I am. When you're 8 games below 500 and, 10 games out of a wild card, at this point with 24 games left, I need to start seeing what is happening for next year. All right, let's go out to Dave and Cecil. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for taking my call. I've got 2 points. The first is the problems that the Pirates have had over the years is not any one person. It's not any one position. It's consistency and lack thereof. Tonight they had that. They had good batting, consistent batting, and consistent pitching. My second point is the one thing that worries me about Paul Skeens, he threw 54 pitches in the first 2 innings. I worry about him wearing out his arm. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. You know, I do want to bring up another guy, Andrew McCutchen. What do you do with him? I mean, he's still, a good hitter. He can be a DH. Do you keep him around for another year?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me. Given how much money he makes, only $5 million, the fact that I don't think he wants to go play somewhere else. His family's here. They love being able to get that suite at PNC Park, and his young kids are able to watch him play. They just had another baby this year. I think he'd love to stay in Pittsburgh for another season. They should keep him. It's not a charity case. It's not them giving a contract as a retirement present to a guy. He's earned it. After Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz, find me a better hitter in the Pirates lineup. You can't.
Maybe Nick Gonzalez.
So
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wouldn't say that. Nick Gonzalez doesn't hit for the power that Andrew McCutchen does. So I would bring him back 100% next year, and he would not play as much ideally, but he would still be a big part of this team's offensive strategy for 2025 because he's shown he can still hit this year, Richie.
I don't disagree with you. I would bring him back at that price tag too. Maybe not DH him as much unless you need him. And I mean, how successful of a team is this going to be next year if Andrew McCutchen is your DH? Nothing against him. He was a great player, but he's on the downside of his career.
Well, he can't be your third. He can't be your third best hitter. If he wants to be your DH and he's your 6th or 7th best hitter, that's great. But he cannot be as important or vital to the team's offensive success. So many guys need to step up next year and be more impactful players. You mentioned it with Henry Davis. He looks like he's completely lost.
Are you done with him? Are you done with Davis? I mean, do you feel like it's over for him?
I would have traded him. I would have traded him at the deadline. There was all kinds of speculation that they could have used him to get Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins. I'd rather have Jazz Chisholm here than Brian De La Cruz.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a trade I would have absolutely made. I've got very little hope and belief and Henry Davis transforming himself into a good major league hitter. So, yeah, have I given up on him? I'm willing to put him in trades to make this team better now. I guess that does mean that I've given up on him because I've got Joey Bart and Endy Rodriguez, Richie. He's not necessary at catcher anymore.
Yeah, but you're selling really low, like David Bednar. What do you do with him, too?
Bednar I would keep around because I think they missed their window to trade him. Or you've got to wait for him to pick back up again and then trade him at that point. But we've seen relief pitchers have peaks and valleys. It is disappointing, though, because I don't know if he was ever completely healthy this year. He had that lat injury in spring training. They probably would have been better off, Richie, letting him rest for the first month or so of the season and then ramping him up instead of rushing him back to begin the year like they did.
All right, let's take a break. Back with your phone calls and to wrap up the show coming up next. Stay right there. All right, now it's time to bring in Ken Rice to find out what's coming up on KDKA News at 11. Ken?
Hey, Rich, tonight tempers flaring in Pittsburgh over the war in Gaza, plus an update to today's hospital fire that prompted a massive emergency response, and the campaign trail returning to Pennsylvania. All coming up in just a few minutes. Rich, see you at 11.
All right, Ken, see you in a couple minutes. Andrew, we're going to go back to the phone lines. We got Tony out in Elwood City. Tony, what's up?
What up, Tony?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate you taking my call. I'm against this Cam Hayward signing. His defense is already overpriced. He's 36 years old. His production levels have been down. I think that money could be better spent on the offensive side of the ball. I'm sorry. I just think this was a move they made out of their heart instead of what's good for the franchise.
Tony, I get what you're saying, but it makes sense when you look at the numbers, right? He's only making what he was supposed to make this year. Potentially, if he gets hurt or the Steelers want to move on from him, they can. And they created more cap space this year if they want to get a deal done with Pat Freiermuth or bring in another receiver or something.
Yeah, Richie, the only thing I will say that I'm with you. I would given him this contract as well. The one devil's advocate point I am sympathetic to is they've already spent so much money on the defensive side of the ball. For the next 2 years, you might rather have the $14.5 million annually to spend on better offensive players. And that's, to me, that is a persuasive argument given their offensive issues right now.
I mean, unless you think he can play another year at kind of a Pro Bowl level player, which I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
But that's why you drafted guys like Benton and Leal, Richie, to replace him eventually.
Yeah, Logan Lee, too. All right, Pony, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Hopefully we see you guys on KDKA News right now.